Welcome to Sitcoms in Color, the newest and coolest podcast about diverse movies and shows. This podcast highlights a different theme every month. I'm one of your hosts, Millie Red, and I'm going to have my three co-hosts introduce themselves.
Hey everyone, I'm Crypt. This is Lady Lily.
And I'm Classy Lady. Last month, we analyzed shows and examined a movie that demonstrated the theme of new beginnings, rags to riches. This month, we are starting our new month-long series, Dear Mama, Mother's Day edition. Today, we're going to be talking about a show that really was like no other at the time. A show that demonstrated the struggle but promoted love, family, and perseverance. This show was probably one of the most relatable shows during its time to Black America.
So we're going to get into this show called
Good time. Anytime you need a payment. Good time. Anytime you need a friend. Good time. Anytime you're out from under. Not getting hassled, not getting hustled. Keeping your head above water.
Make it when you can. Temporary layoffs. Good time. Easy credit rip-offs. Good time. Ain't we lucky we got them. Good times. Yeah.
They were so extra.
Yeah.
I did that for you.
The lyrics of this song makes no sense.
No. I want to point that out right now.
Can someone speak the lyrics?
Okay, so
Yeah.
speaking the lyrics is good times. Anytime you meet a payment, good times. Anytime you need a friend, good times. Anytime you're out from under, not getting hassled, not getting hustled, keeping your head above water, making a wave when you can, temporary layoffs, good times. Easy credit
God.
easy credit ripoffs, good times, scratching and surviving, good times, hanging and jiving, good
That's
time.
a good time. That's a good time.
It is a good
Um,
time. Ain't we lucky
this
we got
sounds-
them? Good times.
No, because it sounds like the pursuit of happiness. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like the theme song for everything he went through in that movie. God.
They really had bad times. They really did.
Yes.
Yeah. They could have just said bad times.
Yeah, and every
Pretty much.
episode was bad
Because-
times.
Maybe that was like
Yeah.
a psyop for like, let's confuse them. We'll put the lyrics.
I think you're right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
had us singing this song. I never knew the words to this because they hit us with some good vocals, and then we
Mhm.
forget about what else is going on in the song. Like, yeah, that made no sense. You're
Easy
right.
credit ripoff.
You
That's
right.
the terrible time.
You could tell they were in the
You're
hood.
right.
There's no bank.
Okay, so Lady Lily, how did you feel about Good Times watching it like growing up?
Growing up, I don't remember Good Times that much. I just remember the song because it just reminded me of church.
Mm-hmm. So Classy. Did you watch Good Times growing up or as an adult or whatever?
I didn't intentionally watch it, but like whoever was watching it in the house, I would catch glimpses of it. So I remember it, but I don't remember it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like I know it, but like I can't recall a show. I can't recall everyone's name like that. I just knew of it. I probably knew the tune more than anything else.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Lady.
I did wanted to point out that rewatching it really drug up some like very negative, strong feeling.
Yes. Yes, and I'm
Mhm.
sure we definitely are gonna hit some of those negative feelings that it drug into. Crip, what about you? Did you watch it growing up or as an adult, and how did you feel about the show?
I know I've watched this before, but I can't recall the time period. I maybe during like my high school years, it would come on like the basic channels or what have you. What I guess is known as like bounce TV now. But
Mhm.
um yeah, I wasn't a big fan. Like, I'm not a big fan of watching people struggle. They're eating oatmeal every day. I love oatmeal, but not every day. And I get that's what they had to do to survive. But yeah, I'm kind of like, thank God we didn't have to grow up doing that because I did not like oatmeal as a kid. So I think that's probably for me why I was like, ugh, y'all are eating oatmeal every day. Which is funny because I love oatmeal now, but back then oh my god, I would be doing silent tantrums in the room, like, I do not like oatmeal. So,
Mhm.
James always seemed angry to me, the dad.
Mhm.
I think it was cool that they had JJ as, kinda like that comedic relief for the group. Michael was always an interesting character to me with his, like, pro-black power kind of rants he would go on. But yeah, in the sense of I thought it was a cool show, but at the same time I didn't like it from a perspective of I like to see us doing well. And we weren't doing that well in there.
I don't really remember watching Good Times, like, as a kid. I don't know when it was when I was watching Good Times, but I definitely remember it being on in the house. Both my parents were, like, products of the '70s, so all those '70s shows, I just remember, like, Sanford and Son, Good Times, Different Strokes, like,
Mhm.
things like that. I just remember those types of shows, and, I do remember, like, James always being, like, angry, which I guess kinda made sense because he just was working so hard, and Willona, like, to me, she was a bad bee, like, she was very beautiful, but also I thought Florida was very pretty too, like, and I mean, you'll hear about it later. I was very surprised to hear how old she was in the show because I didn't think that she was that old. Um, I also liked Michael's character too because he was like that real pro-black militant dude, so I really like that. It just was a really cool dynamic to the show. I like that. But I kind of agree with Crypt. You know, it's not fun seeing black families struggle like that. But I think in the time of the '70s, um, it just it was probably relatable to black families because there were probably a lot of families that were living like that. But to kind of transition, what did the '70s look like for America? Well, it was a very interesting time. Sky high inflation, political disruption with Watergate and the Vietnam War, high gas prices, changes to American politics, changes to societal norms, lava lamps, which I never really understand why anybody would want one of those, but whatever.
Ooh,
Bell
don't do
bottoms.
that.
Yeah, I don't
Hey,
want no. I'm sorry, I don't
totally
want
had
to.
one.
Whatever. Okay, but whatever. Lava lamps, bell bottoms, loved bell bottoms, drugs, and so much more.
This is America.
Today.
Yes. Black
Yeah.
America looked even more different in the 1970s. So the Black Power movement was growing stronger, racial tension was high. There were many firsts in sports, fashion, and politics, especially politically, including the first black person to campaign for the Democratic presidential nomination, Miss Shirley Chisholm. And there will be a movie about her coming out. Roots premiered. Need I say more on that? And one of the characters in this
Wow.
show was in Roots.
Mhm.
Sugar Hill Gang recorded the 15-minute Rapper's Delight. Yo, that song was 15
But
minutes.
now they can't listen to a 6-minute diss by Kendrick Lamar. You know it.
That Yes, facts. And unfortunately, drugs, specifically crack, started ruining our communities. Then you have Good Times that comes along and truly embodies 1970s Black America.
Good Times is about a working class family who lives in Chicago housing development, aka the projects. Although James, played by John Amos, and Florida Evans, played by Esther Roll, struggle to provide for their family, they try to make the best out of it, out of every situation. To me, this show is all about perseverance.
Yeah.
That's just it. That's the
Yeah.
main theme to me. Every episode is about how they persevered
Yeah.
through their
Mhm.
barriers and challenges.
Yeah, and while they was cutting back, they was playing our song, huh? The last hired, first fired blues.
It all happened so quick. By the time I got over the shock of it, I went out and bought that cake. I thought it would bring a little joy into the house. After we sang the blues.
That was a wonderful thought, baby. Just wonderful. But I'm sorry I did all that hollering and
Oh,
screaming.
you had to get it off your chest.
Yeah, but I didn't have to put it on your back.
It's all right, forget about it, James.
Cake winner, bread winner. Baby, you just a plain winner.
Oh, thanks, honey. But I gotta tell you, I'm worried.
About what?
Oh, with you just having a part-time job, I wonder how we gonna make it.
Oh, relax, baby. We make it the same way we always have. Somehow.
So the couple has 3 kids, the oldest being JJ, played by Jimmy Walker, who is a quirky, aspiring painter.
Here I am! 18 today, happy, bright, narrow man, and pure dynamite!
The youngest is Michael, played by Ralph Carter, who is the politically woke and militant child. And that is such a great description for him.
Yeah.
Mhm.
One of my heroes, Crispus Attucks, wasn't afraid when his turn came.
Now, who was Crispus Attucks?
He was a black man. He was the first man to die in the Revolutionary War.
One of us fought in the Revolutionary War?
More than one. There was Peter Salem. He was the hero at Bunker Hill.
Well, I'll be damned.
But the school don't teach you about that. And they also don't teach you about Dr. Daniel Hale Williams. He did the first open heart surgery in this country. Or about Pedro Alonso Nino, who's...
Oh, now, wait a minute now.
And then there's Thelma, played by Bernadette Stannis, the middle child who is the voice of reason.
Listen to JJ. He might not ever be right again.
Florida's friend from high school, Walona, played by Janae Dubois, lives in the building and provides her love, support, and, of course, gossip.
And what's all this talk about me starting a new life? You make it seem like the life I have is so bad. Florida, this may come as a shock to you, honey, but I got a good life and I'm enjoying myself. Where is it written that every woman has got to be married or she's a nobody? Huh? Now, I am not knocking families and kids, but that is just not my bag.
You also had Nathan Bookman, played by Johnny Brown, who was the overweight janitor who gave them grief all the time. I could not stand him.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
He played that role too good.
Yeah.
Hey, I was just checking the light bulbs out there, and I heard somebody yelling in here.
It was nothing, Mr. Bookman, nothing.
Hey, man, you know me. I don't mean to make any trouble.
Yeah, we know.
Hey, but excessive noise is prohibited. Boy, it sure broke my heart to have to evict the Andersons because of that. But that's clause 11 of your lease. But you folks know about that clause.
That's the oh yeah clause.
They always have hopes of leaving the projects and finally do in the series finale. But without James, as his character died in a car accident during the 4th season of the series. The specific episode we are going to be discussing is from season 2, episode 1, Florida Flips, which aired on Tuesday night on September 10th, 1974 on CBS. The show was created by Norman Lear, Mike Evans, and Eric Monty. and directed by Herbert Kenwith.
Do y'all want to know some interesting facts about Good Times? John Amos, who was 34 at the time, was just 8 years older than 26-year-old Jimmy Walker. Esther Roll was 53 years old. Wow. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
James was a little run down though.
For real. That's what I was. I'm like, wait a minute. And oh my God. Oh wow.
What was
Okay.
that?
Dang.
I don't know.
That was weird.
What?
I think the devil came out of her.
That was
Me?
not me, to be clear.
Yes.
What happened?
You
There
were like,
was a-
blah, blah, blah.
There was a feedback. There was
Oh
some
my
kind of
gosh, I don't know
feedback
what
that
It was something that came up from the depths of your throat.
It was a poltergeist.
Like the way Lady Lily had did that cough sneeze or whatever that was.
Yeah. A snoff. It was just like
Oh
that.
my God. Y'all, guess what? It was a spin-off of a spin-off. I didn't even know that. Starting with All in the Family, Edith Bunker had a strongly opinionated feminist cousin named Maud, played by B. Arthur. Maud got a spinoff and had a maid named Florida Evans. Then we have the spinoff, Good Times. Norman Lear developed and produced Good Times, but did not create it. It was created by two Black writers, Mike Evans and Eric Monty. Evans played Lionel Jefferson on All in the Family. John Amos was fired and Esther Roll quit. He and Esther Roll didn't appreciate how JJ's character was developing. Janae Dubois became the lead and Janet Jackson joined and became her daughter on the show. Esther Roll came back for the season finale.
So the scene starts with JJ sleeping in the living room with a big grin on his face, and Michael reading some kind of book at the kitchen table. Thelma walks in, and Michael asks her,
Hey, Selma. Yeah? Why do they call it menopause?
Thelma, looking confused, wonders why he's reading about that. He goes on to explain that he feels like their mother is experiencing this due to the crazy way she's been acting. Thelma insists she is not. She explains
Just because a woman is cranky doesn't mean she has menopause. Boy, you men must be born with those dumb ideas. Now, Mama does not have menopause. Well, she ain't got it now. I sure don't want to be around when she catches it.
Thelma gets frustrated that JJ is lazy and still sleeping, so she wakes him up. He goes back to sleep to finish his dream. After a few moments, he wakes and talks about how his dream has reminded him of a ghetto marathon. Thelma talks about how mean and uptight their mother has been lately. JJ says it's only because they don't have his charm. The bedroom door starts to rattle, and Florida comes out with a laundry basket, telling everyone,
Keep quiet, you'll wake up your father.
JJ tries to lay on the charm, but Florida is not having it, calling him a weed and saying she wouldn't fall for it if he were Harry Belafonte. Florida gets frustrated with all the kids, wanting them to do work, but then not satisfied with how they do it. She gets ready to leave and do the laundry and hollers out how she needed to have been born an octopus with 8 hands to run the house. She was a little bit dramatic.
No, because I say that
Yeah.
every day.
And you're
But
being
on
dramatic.
that episode,
Yeah, she was being dramatic.
She was being real dramatic.
I mean,
Uh,
I don't think she's being dramatic, but I got kids, so.
touche. James comes out of the bedroom disheveled and talks about how rough Florida has been to share a bed with. He also talks about how after he came home from work at 4 a.m., she woke up from being dead asleep and said she wanted to talk about something. He asked if he could talk in the morning, and she said she wanted to talk now. Then, when it came time to talk, she said she had nothing to say, and that kept James up all night wondering what she wanted to talk about. I would have went back to sleep.
Yeah.
can we?
Probably would not have had oatmeal for breakfast the next day.
Can we talk about the fact that James is having a conversation with his kids about his wife? Does that
Right.
not seem odd?
No.
That he's complaining about what the bedroom?
I think he was confused, and I think he was trying to like gather from the kids, like, do y'all know what the heck going on? Like, what did y'all do? You know what I mean? But that's
I
it's
agree
the
with
norm.
Classy. Like that's how I took it.
He
I
was
understand.
looking rough.
He was looking rough, and I
He
understand like
was.
being like, oh, like what's going on with your mom? Like she's kind of tripping or whatever. But he was like, it's like I've been laying in the bed with a boxer. He said something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and it was
Too
really
far.
weird. Like I thought
Mm-hmm.
it was really weird that he made that comment.
Well, like maybe she's just moving. She's disrupting this man's sleep.
It's
I
slamming the
mean,
doors.
yeah, but
I don't know. I didn't catch it. I guess I have to go back and watch it. That part I didn't really pay attention to as much. Maybe because like the whole time that she was walking around slamming the doors and being aggravated, I completely relate to that feeling as a mother. That is a feeling that happens often. I know mothers, y'all get up to our listeners, y'all get up some mornings. Nobody has necessarily done anything wrong, but you see a sock on the floor and you like, God dang, I gotta go put this in a washing machine. Kids getting up, calling your name, doing their regular routine, and you're like, I do not feel like it today. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. Just like there's just some days you just don't feel like being a mom. You have to be a mom. You try to put on that tough face, and most days you do it. But that little 1% out of the year, you doing exactly what Florida was doing.
Well, moving on. Next, we are introduced to Walona. Florida is trying to get onto the elevator, which is taking a long time to come. And her high school buddy, Walona, tries to make a joke. That fails. She notices Florida is moody or down and explained that she felt that way before her divorce and seeked out help. She admitted to still going to a women's group for therapy. Florida says she's fine and the elevator opens. As she gets on, Walona said she forgot some things, so she'll be back in a few, but she ends up going to the Evans apartment. After Walona enters the apartment, there's a little banter between her and James. She finally lets him know Florida probably doesn't have enough to do and that she's bored. James and the kids talk about how she has plenty to do and they name a bunch of household chores. James says he
Mm-mm.
doesn't want to get in the way of all of her housework. They banter more, and James has an epiphany that he spoiled Florida. He has to stop treating her like a princess.
She eating oatmeal.
like
Her
what?
hair not done.
That elicits so much feelings when I saw that.
That was
When I
pretty bad.
Yeah. So when Florida comes back, obviously she's surprised that, Walona is there talking to James, but Walona strategically come up with a lie to get out
Mm-hmm.
as soon as she can. So Florida comes back. James asks her if she's happy. She says yes, but nobody believes her. Florida and James start to argue.
I don't hear no more of your lip neither.
Maybe I ought to not hear any more of yours because I am getting...
Daddy, please don't
Stay
argue.
out of this. It's none of your business, Michael. Now listen to me.
No, you listen, baby, because I'm going to do some talking now.
No, I'm going to
Mama,
talk and you're
please.
going to listen. Michael! Oh, my God.
Michael comes over and pleads with his parents to stop arguing. She gets so worked up, she slaps him and runs in the room.
See, that's unnecessary.
Yeah, that slap was.
And this is who your queen is, huh?
So again, like I'm just bringing in that motherly things that happen on a regular day. That happens. I'm not saying I've done that before because I haven't, but I thought it was really funny. Like after she slapped him, she had that real dramatic. Oh,
Yeah.
it was so dramatic because
even the audience was like, what?
Stop. Right.
they zoomed in.
Bye.
I was like, wait, did she just have a stroke? Like, Yeah, it was like that conviction of, oh my God, I just took out everything that I was angry about. Cause she really wasn't, like I said, it had nothing to do with what the family had done, but also everything about her role in the family. So when she slapped him because she told him to be quiet, get out of grown folks' business, he, was trying to help by still injecting himself to tell his parents not to argue. When she slapped him, she didn't mean to slap him, but it was like that impulsive slap. And as soon as she slapped him, she was like, that slap was not for you, baby. I am almost 100% sure that almost every parent has had that time where they realize I got to roll this back, which is why, as a parent, if I've had a bad day, I do not try to rear my children or to chastise them in any type of way, because you can end up taking out, your frustrations on children, and children are just going to be children.
I didn't agree with the slap at all. I felt that that was more of a reaction. The punishment didn't fit what Michael did.
Yeah, she didn't
You
mean to
you are
slap him. That's what
trying
the
to
dramatics
defend
was.
mothers around the world very hard right now.
No,
It's
I'm not.
okay
I
to
just
apologize.
understand. No, I'm not apologizing because I understand.
I know
Because
I'm not
when you
apologizing, but
are
I'm just saying you defending her like 10 toes.
No, I'm not defending her per se. I understand it. And like, it's not just things that I've gone through or just my actions. Is when you have sisters that are mothers, you have friends that are mothers. Like, we talk about these type of things, and I'm not throwing you under the bus when I say this, but when you don't have children and you don't like, won't have those conversations with people who are raising children. So like, when we talk about these type of things, we talk about, as mothers to mother, the things we feel guilty about, the things we feel bad about. Like, we talk to each other about punishments and rearing, and we talk to each other about good things, but a lot of the times you're using your mother community, whoever that is, to be like, girl, you think I went too far? Like, those things, can happen. But that's what I'm just saying, like, not as a defense to her, but I just really understood the episode. Like, I understood what it meant to, oh my gosh, I just accidentally hit my child. I don't think in her brain when she was yelling back and forth with her husband that she meant to hit her child for her child trying to stop the argument after giving him a warning that, hey, stay out of grown folks' business. That was not her intention. He just interrupted again, and her reaction was pop, and that's why she was like, "Oh my God, it's hit my son." You know what I mean? That would have never been her reaction if she actually had the opportunity to think about what she was about to do. It was impulsive. So when I say, like, when I'm talking, I'm not trying to justify or not justify. Obviously, she should not have slapped him, but she did not do it on purpose. The next scene is a woman's group. Willona decides to bring Florida here as she thinks it'll be helpful for her to talk about her issues. Most of the husbands are abusive, and Florida feels very out of place. She also doesn't want to discuss her personal matters with strangers. Most of their husbands believe a good wife does her best work in the kitchen and the bedroom. Florida just can't relate. They try to probe as to why she hit her son, and she really doesn't know why. But everyone believes her family probably doesn't need her as much as she thinks they do, and she has nothing else going on. She leaves and goes back home because she believes these women are a bunch of cackling hens.
The Evans family is talking about how they wish Florida would come back. They are frustrated as they don't know what is going on with her and if they are the reason for this change in her mood. Florida comes in and they are all happy to see her.
Oh, baby, where you been? We've been worried about you.
Oh, it's not important, James. I'm home and I'm all right. James, I'm sorry I worried you. And I'm sorry I was carrying on.
Oh, don't give it a thought, baby.
I'll fix dinner.
Don't worry about no dinner. Just sit down and relax. Well, Florida, it sure is good to have you home.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Thank you, James. It's good to be home.
But when James asks Florida where she was and she says a women's group, that sets him off. He starts saying misogynistic things and even echoed,
Well, if there's one thing I ain't got no patience with is women trying to push in and take over a man's job.
James, that is not what women are after.
Don't tell me, Florida. I see it every day. They're taking the food right out of our mouth. I'm gonna tell you something Uncle Ed used to say, and maybe he was right. There's only two places a woman belongs,
Don't
Florida.
say it, James. James, don't say it.
The kitchen in the bedroom, Florida. The kitchen in the bedroom.
realizes those women were right. She has allowed the family to be her whole life, and now she has no life of her own.
Now, what's wrong with being a wife and a mother?
Nothing, except my family is all grown up now, and I still don't have nothing to talk about but my husband and my kids. James, there's a whole world out there, and I'm not a part of it. I want to be somebody too.
Florida, you always been somebody to me. But what I'm supposed to be with this new thing?
My husband, and I'm your wife. James, I don't want to walk ahead of you, but I don't want to walk behind you either. Honey. I want to walk with you.
Then the scene ends with JJ saying he doesn't know who to ask for a couple of dollars or who to ask to cook him dinner. Michael and Thelma tell JJ to shut up, as everyone has been telling him throughout the entire episode.
Okay. So, how did y'all feel about this particular episode of Good Times?
Well, I think y'all already know it resonated with me because I understand it as a mother. Those are just your days where you're just fed up. If you have too many of those days, you probably should go, get some help. But every once in a while, that's just your frustration day, and you just know that it is time for a change. So, it just resonated with me.
Lady?
The message of domestic violence was just so prevalent in this episode. And for any listener who is in a relationship and do not feel safe, there are resources available. And it's just that I can't help but think about the character in the women's group who is continuously getting like physically abused by her husband, and they made it into a joke, but for me I just could not find it funny at all. It made me realize how much there was a lack of resources for women who are in relationships that are like so tumultuous and dangerous.
That's
Crip?
understandable. For me, this show in general, I wasn't a fan of, from the perspective of I just don't like to see struggling, especially for Black families. And so it was disheartening for me that really Florida couldn't really articulate why she was feeling the way that she was feeling to a certain degree. And she was just kind of lashing out, in my opinion. And so for me, that didn't sit well because it was like, well, nothing has changed. Like, that's been your life. Like, you have to change for you. The kids and your husband aren't all of a sudden going to change into being, not needy or in James's case, his perspective on being, the male patriarch of the house and his viewpoints on certain roles that they were supposed to play. Like, that doesn't just change. That was just my take on it.
To your point, Crypt, she actually admitted that.
At the beginning, that's what I was saying. I was struggling at the beginning of it because it was like, what's like everybody keeps asking you, what's wrong? Yeah, I don't know. I think my viewpoint on Florida in general, just the whole series, I wasn't a big fan of hers. So I just remember I said she was dramatic. I felt like she's always been a little bit dramatic for me.
I mean, that's where Martin gets his damn,
Right, like, she's dramatic.
That's where they get that. I just felt like it was sad. I felt like it was sad because women just didn't have the resources that we have in today's society. I felt like the misogyny was just disgusting. I just can't imagine like have to be a woman back then and to have my man or my husband to treat me like that or to just see me as something that needs to be in the kitchen and in the bedroom. Like, that's just so ridiculous. I I'm just not a fan of, I guess, kind of like Crip. I'm just not a fan of how James just seemed like the angry black man all the time. And I guess that's just how the show was. I mean, he was just a working class man. And they lived in the projects. I mean, I guess I just have to remember like that was the premise of the show. But also Florida, like me and Lady Lily had talked about a couple days ago, she looked homely. Um, I just feel like there was why did she really have to look that homely? Um, I don't know. There's so many things about the show that where I'm just like, I feel like it could have gone differently. Like it could have taken a different turn and maybe the show could have still flourished, but whatever. So, we got a few more questions that we're going to discuss about the episode. If y'all have any insight to these questions we're posing, please feel free to make a review. So, what lessons, if any, can be learned from this episode that are still relevant today?
I think America has already learned that women do not have to play that stereotypical role in the household. That's one lesson that's already been learned. The other lesson is for the new moms. A lot of us older moms, I, like we've already learned this. I've been a mom for over a decade. So when you find yourself in the same routine, whatever that routine is, and you're having this bad day, just like Florida did. She woke up and it's just like there was just something wrong. Like no one may have necessarily did anything to her that day, but it could have been an accumulation of things. All week, I've been telling y'all to pick up after yourselves. All week, I've been telling you to get up because it's time for us to do X, Y, and Z on Saturday. It could have been an accumulation of things, and really the problem was she had or she felt like she had no purpose or she needed to break up her routine and find something for herself that she needed to do. As you can see, it took her friend taking her to a meeting, trying to talk to her, her kids being confused, her husband being confused, she being confused, slapping her kid by accident to realize, oh my gosh, the problem is I need to find something for me. Like that is actually what needs to happen because all day, all week, all month, all year, she feels like a slave to the family. And technically, that's what she was doing, slaving for the family. What was anybody doing for her? She's getting up, she's cooking breakfast, whatever they have. She's making it work, oatmeal. She going down to the laundromat, got to deal with a broke down elevator. So there are when you find yourself, moms, in that routine, you got to break up the monotony. You got to find what works for you, even if it's a walk, a talk to God. I don't know, but you got to figure it out because you need to spend time and you got to love on yourself. And now that I've been a mom for some time, that's what most moms we have to learn how to do. You can't just care for your kids, can't just care for your husband. You got to care for yourself.
I think that was nicely stated. You can't pour from an empty cup. So, I mean, you have to love on yourself before you can love anybody else, and you have to, have purpose for yourself. It can't just be a purpose for other people. Like you need to know you just need to have purpose for yourself, and I think so many people just get caught up with caring for other people and, well, I have to do this for my kids and I have to do that. And, I noticed like my mom did that a lot. Like my mom made a lot of sacrifices, for us. And I wish that sometimes she had been more selfish, or maybe the correct word is selfful. I wish she had poured more into herself a little bit more instead of just pouring so much into us, because I think at times she was pouring from an empty cup. Were there any aspects of this episode that you found particularly dated or ahead of its time?
I think I said it with the misogynistic ways and the stereotypical duties earlier, but I'm gonna tell you what I thought was ahead of its time was when Florida had the epiphany, like, oh, I need to take care of myself. Like it always shocks me when we go back and we watch these older shows And they were actually talking about all of these values that we're learning as we get older. You know what I mean? Like there was a lot of wisdom in these shows. We were too young to understand it then. But watching it, I was like, how do they know that they were like supposed to be finding time for themselves? They weren't talking about that back in the day. And they actually were. So I kind of thought that was before its time because we as women are just now learning that, whether you have children or not, or whether you're married or not, to find time for yourself as a woman and cherish yourself as a woman. So I thought that was pretty cool that they were doing their women group thing because I guess, I mean, they didn't have cell phones. They couldn't just, hop on the phone and text or go on TikTok or Facebook and join each other as a big group of women that need to love on themselves. So I thought that was pretty cool.
I was going to say the same thing. I feel like the women's group was definitely ahead of its time. That's self-care right there. That's self-love. That's therapy. It's a form of therapy. Definitely ahead of its time. Therapy is something that we don't really promote, I feel like, in the Black community. So I feel like for them to be promoting that and talking about that in the 70s in the Black community, I feel like was definitely ahead of its time.
Agreed.
I agree.
But
as
like Lady
well.
Lily said earlier, the lady who was battered and they were making jokes about it, that is definitely dated. You cannot do that today. Okay? You cannot laugh about someone mentioning that they're battered. Like if you were in a group of women and you say, my husband beat on me, girl, everybody in that group is gonna be calling the police.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna have a statement by the end of the day. Okay.
Canceled.
It's not gonna be a joke.
Domestic violence.
Right.
It's not funny.
It's not. It's really not funny. That whole segment was just not funny.
Mm-mm.
Any of those things surprise you all?
So, number one, the John Amos. I thought he died in real life is why he wasn't on the show. So I didn't even know that man was still alive.
He was in Coming to America.
I don't know why I didn't make the jump there. I have no idea. I really
He
thought that
sure
man
was in
died.
Coming to America.
And Roots. Roots was after that.
But okay, so that's why I said timing wise, when I watch these things, I think I watched probably Roots first before I saw. So that's why I was like, I really thought this man died in real life. And it didn't even dawn on me with Coming to America at all. He looks so rough and hard in good times. Like like they really battered that man in that show. Like
They did.
The TV production did not do him justice. Like he really, I would have thought he was 53 at that time.
Yeah.
That might have been the point. Make him look rough.
I guess, but they made him look a little too rough for me. But it's interesting, they didn't appreciate how JJ's character was developing. Did it go further into what?
John Amos, he did not like the trajectory of the show and how they were writing the characters. Like the stereotypical Black angry man or
Right, which he played from the beginning. So it's like, what more could have changed from season 1 to when he was off on season 4? Like that's how the show started to me.
Well, and also what I saw was that John Amos, I don't think he was the most civil person to get along with on set, but I think there were like issues with him on set as well. And I think I also saw interviews saying that he knew that he wasn't the best person to like get along with on set too. So I think it was also like his personality as well.
The differences I had with the producers of the show was that I felt too much emphasis was being put on JJ and his chicken hat and saying dynamite every third page. I wasn't the most diplomatic guy, like I said, in those days, and they got tired of having their lives threatened over jokes. So they said, to tell you what, why don't we kill him off and we'll all get on with our lives. Life's too short. I got the call. We were on hiatus, and Norman's secretary at that time, a very nice young lady by the name of J.D. Joe, called and said, John, Norman would like to speak to you. So Norman got on the phone. He said, Big John. I said, yes, Norman. He said, I've got some good news and some bad news. What do you want first? I said, hey, it's your dime. You made the call. He said, well, the good news is we've been picked up for another season. He said, you want the bad news? I said, sure. How bad can it be? He said, you won't be with us. And I said, Nothing. I didn't say a word. I let that register for a minute. And he said, "You still there?" I said, "Yeah, I'm here, Norman. Well, don't you want to say something?" He said, "What can I say? It's your show. Have a good life." Click. And that was it.
You know what else was ahead of his time? JJ sleeping in the living room on the couch. It kind of reminds me of millennials nowadays. Millennials, we're sleeping in our parents' homes because we can't afford houses. This is why I believe we should be in space.
Okay.
We just need to colonize in space already, okay? We just need to colonize
This when
there.
the music start
Right.
going. This when you
Yeah.
start playing the music.
Yeah.
So
Doom,
since I got it to my space talk. So what are we going to be talking about next week, Lady Lily?
I'm sorry.
Just cut her right on off.
Just cut me right off.
I did.
So what are we going to be talking about next week, Lady Lily?
Well, we're going to be talking about a very iconic, phenomenal mother, Claire Huxtable.
Ooh. Claire Huxtable.
Yeah. Well, that's all the time we have for today. We hope you had a good time reminiscing about Good Times Season 2, Episode 1, Florida Flips. Be sure to tune in next time as we continue our journey through classic television and movie history.
But in the meantime, check us out on Instagram at Sitcoms in Color. You can also check us out on Facebook at Sitcoms in Color. You can email us at sitcomsincolor@gmail.com. So if y'all have any shows, episodes, movies, or themes you want us to review, hit us up. So where can they listen to our episodes, Millie?
Well, you can rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast, Sitcoms in Color, on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening, and until next week, bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Deuces.
Space time, the next generation.
I'm Crypt.
Do that again. We have been bantering for like 10 minutes, and that's when you decide to drink something that has a top.
I done ate a whole salad wrap, and she over here done waiting.
She ate a whole meal, bro. You were roasting her for a whole meal, and that's when you decide to drink something, bro. Hanging in a jar. Okay, is it hanging in a chow line or is it hanging in and jiving?
I had no idea either way.
I don't know.
I used to say hanging in a chow line. That made sense to me.
I said that too.
It's
actually
line. What is that?
like
I would say it's not something
hanging
we
in
made up because we ain't know the
like
word.
hanging in a food line.
The food line.
Where can we listen to our
Where can we listen to our episodes? In space. In space. Crypt. That's where we can listen to our episodes.
Right. I don't understand anything I just read.
your intrusive thoughts definitely took over there.